Make the ground shake.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host GamerK, and it's time for another video for the month of December. And once again, like I said, I only have like one Christmas related video or holiday related. So let's get down to another DLC review, the second part of the continuation of Marvel's Spider-Man, The City That Never Sleeps DLC, Episode 2, Turf Wars. Now a little bit of a recap. Erica Lindbeck voices Black Cat. Black Cat returns with a kind of a big reveal that kind of involves Spidey and, oh boy, does it ever. She uses him to get information on the mob, and then backstabs us, and then she's dead. And so after that, Hammerhead, who is a very, not villain that's mostly used. I mean, in Spectacular Spider-Man, he was done very well, and voiced by the one and only John DiMaggio, who most of you may know as either Jake from Adventure Time, or my personal favorite, Wrath from Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, and also the one and only Dr. Dragon from Kim Possible. But I'll get to the voice actor in a minute. So basically the story for this DLC is, after Black Cat's death and the data immensely destroyed that he was going to use to blackmail the Mafia, which are the Mafia here, to submit to him. And now he's going by force. And I will admit, this DLC kind of takes place a couple days after the events of the first episode, and it definitely has that old-time cops and mobster story to it. And I love stories like that, from when Law and Order did the mob episodes to when all the crime shows did mob episodes. It just feels like a regular cop thing, instead of just having overpowered supervillains constantly taking over. And that's one thing I like about Spider-Man. And just like how Batman takes on Penguin and what was his name? The mob dude. I can't remember his name, but you get what I mean. It's not just supervillains and monsters. It's basic old school crime lords, and I love that. So the game opens up with under fire, a firefight with the New York police and the Mafia, owned by Hammerhead. And Captain Yuri Watanabe is taking this part very personally later on, because within the first mission, we get to see Hammerhead and his cruelty as he's hitting cops with his head and killing them. For those of you who don't know, he has a metal plate in his head, so Hammerhead, yeah. And I gotta say, they struck gold when they asked Erica Lindbeck to voice Black Cat, because she's got that kind of voice that's kind of flirty and everything. And who do they get to play a mobster who actually talks very gentlemanly? I'm gonna say this: if I ever do in the future do a video where I do my favorite voice actors, Game Hub alumni Keith Silverstein to voice Hammerhead. Yes, this is a 100% yes, and it works. Keith Silverstein. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Masasaru Shido from Persona 5, Monspeed from 7 Deadly Sins, and my personal favorite, Hawkmoth from Miraculous, is voicing Hammerhead. That is pitch perfect, and if this video finds its way to Keith Silverstein, I gotta say I love him. His voice has that threatening monotone that a lot of mobsters have, but it's also kind of pleasant, like you're talking to the most interesting man in the world, like he will cut you and beat you to shit if you mess with him. It is perfect! So after the first mission, when the power goes out and Yuri starts firing, this is Yuri Watanabe, the captain of the NYPD. She starts firing rapidly, and she kills a lieutenant who we see in the beginning of the mission, and it strikes her. So from now on, Yuri's just been a little this affects not only the mission of the main story of this episode, but also a DLC mission that will come in the third episode. I'll mention that when I get to that episode. So, Turf Wars is honestly one of the best. It's a little bit better than the last episode. Just a smidge. I mean, it's not that different, because it's got the same amount of missions, 8 main missions for the story, as well as 3 side quests. And the main missions themselves gives us a little bit of insight into Hammerhead's magnum opus, which is to use something called Project Olympus and some Sable technology to basically make him into a robotic armor. Okay, let's see. I gave him points for being an old school Mafia. Negative points for using technology to soup him up. I mean, he was already souped up in Shadow Dimensions with the tablet, and that's just by fusing guns to his arms. And this one, I mean, it does fit. I mean, there are some weapons, but Hammerhead's mostly a mano kind of mobster. He doesn't use technology. But I guess for this one, it works, because the suit makes him look badass. The story does do well. And the banter between a little bit of Yuri with Spidey and between Hammerhead, there is still a little bit of humor that's going on. The story is very well, trying to track down Hammerhead, trying to track down his shipment, and, ironically, trying to save some of the Mafia guys he's trying to axe off. So what's the point of all this story? The point of it is basically so people will fear the Mafia again. I guess, because of the same way with Penguin, with people like Joker, Firefly, Freeze, Poison Ivy, the criminal underworld doesn't get enough respect anymore when it has to deal with supervillains and psychos. And I honestly think that's a legitimate motivation, because of all the supervillains that happen: Vulture, Electro, Scorpion, Rhino, and recently Octavius. The mob is feeling the pressure to do more and to be more taken seriously instead of just the punchline. And I really do enjoy that. And Silverstein does every delivery of Hammerhead in an instant. It's perfectly done. It's just like when he's Hawkmoth in Miraculous. He has that sinister undertone, but when he gets serious, you can really tell the upkeep in his voice. So, well done casting, and well done picking the villain for this level, for this DLC. And also, one thing I always love about the Spider-Man game is the J. Jonah Jameson, just the facts. Every time after a little mission and some side missions, we get to hear J. Jonah Jameson ranting about how Spider-Man's in league with the mob. And Batman's in league with the Mafia as well. Come on. The 3 side missions, though, really do upkeep a little bit. Where last time we were doing a favor for a retired cop, this time, I guess it's only 2, technically, because one of them is the final part. So we get Hammerhead fronts, where we find a whole bunch of bases of operation that Hammerhead is using as a front for the criminal activity. And it's the same thing we had to do in the last game, take them down and obviously, web them up and fight them. So it's basically that again, just with a different reskin, which is okay. And then we get Screwball again, that reality psycho who puts people in danger and has us fighting people just to get views. This is what happens when a YouTuber goes off the rails in a bad way. I mean, the challenges are fun and they are pretty good if you're still a little rusty from after playing the main game. The challenges are pretty good to get a little bit more flashy with your combos and everything. So I guess it's good practice if you haven't played for a while. And then the Season 2 finale, which is just doing it all over again near the end. So yeah, when I said 3, it's really 2. And also the peppered in here and there in the level is obviously the traditional basic crime stuff, whether you're stopping a runaway car or you're defending someone in the streets. They're just peppered here and there throughout the map. So it's not a big issue that they made it a big part of the DLC, but I'm glad they didn't. The one thing I really, really, really loved was the final boss with Hammerhead. It's a great boss fight, and it kind of enters into what we're going to expect in the 3rd episode. Not only that, but near the end of the episode, we see Yuri's descent into darkness. And for people who read the comics, know more of the character's story, I don't. So I've been reading up a bunch about Yuri. And yeah, throughout this episode, she does some very questionable things, like going to a place where Hammerhead kind of hangs out with his boys, a bar, and it's just massacred. I mean, yeah, we get to do a tailing mission, which, honestly, I enjoy tailing missions a lot better in Spider-Man. Because, for one, we can quickly swing and get off the ground so we're not seen. So I would really like, hopefully, in Miles Morales to have some tailing missions and maybe some more in the second game once Insomniac gets right down to it. But we get to see Yuri kind of slowly become a monster. From the captain who didn't trust us to kind of needed us in the main game. In this, we see her descending into absolute madness. And it's something that, honestly, whenever you see an episode of a crime show where a police officer descends into darkness, like either they become corrupt or they become a vigilante, we don't really get to see. We get to hear what happened, but we don't need to get to see it from the person's perspective. And in this episode, we see it right from the get-go. We see Yuri's hatred for Hammerhead, and then the aftermath after he escapes when she kills one of her own lieutenants accidentally. We see that look of fear in her face, and for an instant, we see like things are going to escalate further. And it does. After the boss fight of the game, of the level, episode. I keep saying level for some reason. Yuri just shoots Hammerhead with a Sable Industries gun. And it's more powerful than your average gun. She traps us in order to and keep shooting him like in the armor so it's not hitting his body. And she's just not letting up. Like taunting him the way he taunted her in the beginning of the game episode. And it's just, not only that, but when we finally stop her and she shoots the plate in his skull and he's presumed dead. After the credits of the episode, we see that he's not, and he's revived by one of his goons. We see the look on Yuri's face when all the other cops around us are looking at what she almost did, and she's just like she just looks stone cold and almost like we're against her. I know this whole DLC is all about Hammerhead and everything, and kind of jumping to the 3rd episode, but it really builds up Yuri a little bit more, and I like it when a DLC does that. When it takes a character that we like, or a character that's done a lot in the game, and they elevate it more. it just shows that there's going to be more to it. And hopefully in either, because again, I haven't played Miles Morales yet. When I do, I hope they input stuff from the first game. And please, this is Insomniac's one of their best works and possibly the best Spider-Man games ever. We need a number 2. I mean, yeah, Miles Morales is technically a spinoff, but we need a sequel to see Yuri's descent go even darker. So, for everything I stated, that the story is interesting. I mean, despite the couple here and there when it kind of loses itself just by tracking stuff down and finding goons to interrogate, it feels like the story just feels better than, I mean, the first episode was fantastic, and this one elevated it even more with a classic mob story, and also a little peek into the under the veil of what like a good person will do when they're pushed over to the edge, and it's something of a marvel. Yeah, I realize I said that, but it just makes great storytelling. And that's something that these comic book games can do well. They can explore a different personality of a character that a lot of people either knows well or don't, and change it up a little bit. It's something that I wish is done more often in games like this, and so it keeps people on their toes. So, and the boss fight was exponentially fun, and I kind of died a lot of times doing it until I found the correct way of putting him down. So, Turf Wars as a whole is pretty good. The side missions are just peppered in there for achievements and, you know, to level up and finish everything off. But it's the story that really makes this episode feel worthwhile, and definitely as a halfway point, it definitely makes it better. So the final verdict for DLC Turf Wars for Marvel's Spider-Man is an 8. It is I think if the DLC is a bundle, like all together, it's definitely worth getting it. For the first episode alone, plus this episode and the third one, obviously. But the third one will have to wait till next year, because I've already got videos planned to do. And that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the video, and really, really hope this finds its way to Keith Silverstein, because he is an amazing talent. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and next week, the week of Christmas, and I'm finally doing something Christmas related. Well, all I can say is, what's this? What's this? Tune in next time in order to find out. This is Gamer K, logging out.